Hello, welcome to Music Network's Music Capital Scheme Award 2 information session. My name is Deirdre Moynihan and I'm the Programs Manager at Music Network. So I'm going to be telling you about Award 2 of the Music Capital Scheme over the next 30 to 40 minutes or so. And I'll be covering the guidelines, talking a little about the application process and the application form, and giving you a general overview about Award 2, really. If you have any questions, please feel free to post them in the stream under the video here, and I will come to them at the end of the session. I will cover anything that I haven't covered in the session itself. So as the questions come to you during the session, post them there and I'll come to them all at the end. And then just before we start, just to let you know that one of my colleagues is going to post a link to the guidelines for Award 2, and it will appear in the stream under the video. And if you'd like to download the guidelines, you can download them directly from there if you haven't already done this from the website. And I'll be referring to the guidelines occasionally during the session. So you might like to just take note of something, so you can download them directly there now if you'd like to click on that link. Yeah, so I think ready to get started. So I'm just going to share my screen there if you want to bear with me for a second. Okay, we're good to go. So, as I said, this is the Award 2 information session, and the Music Capital Scheme is managed by Music Network, and it's funded by the Department of Media, Tourism, Arts, Culture, Sport and the Gaeltacht. So what is the Music Capital Scheme? Well, essentially, the scheme provides support for the purchase of musical instruments. Now, you can also apply for support for maintenance and repair of instruments, but it is primarily for the purchase of musical instruments. Now, there are two distinct award streams that are part of the Music Capital Scheme. Award 1 relates to non-professional performing groups, and Award 2, which is what this session is all about, relates to individual professional performing musicians. So in 2020, the total funding available for Award 2 is €85,700. The application process itself is an online process. And if you visit musicnetwork.ie, you can download the guidelines. Now, we've just spoken about them. You can download them here on the stream as well. But once you've downloaded the guidelines, you can click on a link below them to set up an account. This is on Music Network's website. And it brings you to a portal which will enable you to set up your profile. It's a very simple process. After that, you can log in and have a look at the application form. Now, you can fill in your application form in stages and save a draft and come back to it as many times as you want. So don't be under pressure to try and do everything at once. Even if you want to go in at the start, look at the application form, kind of take note of all the questions, kind of get your head around it really. You can come back then and fill in sections in stages and upload support materials as and when you have them prepared, and save a draft of your application each time. And then only when you're 100% happy with your application and ready to submit it, you can click apply and submit your application. So it's a very user-friendly process overall. Now, talking about submitting your application, a really important detail to take note of is the deadline for receipt of applications, and that is Tuesday, the 13th of October, 2020, and it's 2 p.m. So it's really important that you submit your application prior to that time on the 13th. After that, after 2 p.m., the window to receive applications, it closes, so it's not possible to submit your application by any other means after that. And I suppose my advice would be to prepare your application if you can well in advance, and try and at least submit it the day before, just in case anything happens on the day of your submission on the 13th. You know, you might have a technical hitch with your computer, or perhaps the internet is down or something like that, and that could be very stressful. And if you're after putting in all the work to your application, you want to make sure you can submit it. So I would recommend submitting it the day before if you could at all. Now, who can apply to the Music Capital Scheme Award 2? So as I said, it's for individual professional performers. Now, you must be aged 18 and over. You can be a performer in any genre of music, so there's no restriction in terms of the genre. Now, you must generally be resident in the Republic of Ireland, but there are certain exceptions to this. However, if the panel make an exception, they do need to be sure that the arts in Ireland will benefit from the award being made. So just to keep that in mind if you are considering applying and you're not resident in the Republic of Ireland. And a final note in relation to who can apply, just to say that previous awardees who have not complied with the award conditions, you won't be eligible to apply for 2020. Now, moving on to the priority of Award 2. So that is the public service in education dividend. So essentially, applications from applicants who can demonstrate their participation in the public service in education dividend under the Arts in Education Charter have been strategically prioritised for support in 2020. Now, the Charter states that individual artists funded from the public purse shall donate at least 2 hours per annum to a local education initiative. Now, what that essentially means is if you donate 2 hours of your time, perhaps to teach or deliver a workshop in a local education initiative, that might be a music school, a primary school, a post-primary school. Essentially, if you do that, you qualify as participating in the PSED, the Public Service in Education Dividend. And in that event, your application will be strategically prioritised for support in the 2020 Award 2 Music Capital Scheme. Moving on to the conditions of Award 2. So what can you apply for? You can apply for up to 50% of the instrument cost. And then you must demonstrate how you yourself will fund the remaining 50% of the cost of the instrument. A condition of the award is that you must make regular use of the instrument in the Republic of Ireland. And also a condition is that you'll be asked to, I suppose, confirm where the instrument will be kept, your plans to insure the instrument. So you'll be sharing the contact details and the name of the company who will be insuring your instrument, and also, as applicable, plans to maintain and repair the instrument. Obviously, that'll be more extensive or not, depending on the instrument you're applying for. So coming to eligible and ineligible expenditure. Now I'm going to briefly refer to the guidelines here. So on page 2 of the guidelines, there are 2 tables, one listing items that are eligible and 2 listing items that are ineligible for support in the scheme. One important thing to mention is that the instrument that you're applying for, it must be your primary instrument, or perhaps one where you can demonstrate a strong track record of performance. So just to keep that in mind when you're considering your application. And if you look at that table on page 2, you'll see items in the eligible table, things like instrument cases, bows, drum heads, instrument leads. They're all eligible items to apply for in the Music Capital Scheme Award 2. If you look then at the ineligible table, things like metronomes and tuners, music stands, sheet music, shipping costs, things like that, they're all considered ineligible expenses. So there are obviously more, I'm not going to go through every item on the table there, but there are a list of items that are eligible and ineligible. And so check them if you're unsure if what you're applying is okay to apply for under the Music Capital Scheme. And if the table doesn't provide clarity for you, do get in touch with us. We'll be giving you the contact details later, and we'll be happy to clarify any questions you have in relation to the item you're considering applying for. Just take a little sip of water. So moving on to applications and what would make your application ineligible. So as I mentioned, the deadline is 2 p.m. on Tuesday, the 13th of October. So if your application is submitted after the deadline, unfortunately, it will be ineligible. If it's missing essential support materials. So I'm going to talk about the essential support materials in the next slide, but there are 4 essential support materials and you must submit all applicable essential support materials. I'll explain the word applicable now in a minute when we talk about the support materials, but you must submit all essential support materials. If your application doesn't comply with the award conditions, we discussed the conditions there a minute ago, it would be considered ineligible. If the requested amount exceeds 50% of the total instrument cost, so the maximum amount you can apply for is 50% of the total instrument cost. You can apply for less if you wish, but you can't apply for more than 50% of the cost. Now, this next one is an important one in that you can't apply for support to purchase an instrument that you've already bought. So you can't apply retrospectively for support for the purchase of an instrument. And finally, if your application is incomplete or the finance information is incomplete or incorrect, your application will be deemed ineligible. So there are just some points there in relation to that. Now moving on to the application process. So these are the essential support materials which I was referring to. There are 4 there that you can see. And the first of those is the curriculum vitae, so your CV. And your CV, you know, is an opportunity to demonstrate your track record in performance. And so, of course, it would include things like your training background, you know, past performances, any musical experiences that you feel are relevant to share and showcase what you do. People you collaborate with, that's always good to mention. What I would say is it's important to list the items in any list in reverse chronological order so that the assessment panel will be able to see the most recent activities first, just as they, you know, the order of relevance really. So that will be just one thing to note when you're putting together your CV. So the second essential support material relates to quotations. So you must submit 2 quotations for the proposed instrument that you intend to purchase. And there is no leeway on this. You do, for comparative purposes, need to submit 2 quotations. Now, what constitutes a quotation? Well, it could be an email or a letter from an instrument dealer or maker outlining the details of the instrument and the cost of the instrument. If you feel, just to mention, if you feel your instrument is very bespoke and you're wondering how can you get a comparative quote. So if it's bespoke, what you would do is get a quotation for the closest comparison. So you still need to submit 2 quotations, but you know, it is understandable if it's bespoke, but something that is comparable, the nearest comparable instrument is what you would submit a quotation for then. Now you can see there as well screenshots, and that usually refers to if you're purchasing, for example, a mass-produced instrument that you might be purchasing from a music website, something like Thomann, what you can do is browse to where the instrument details are listed on the website and the cost, and take a screenshot of that page and submit that as a JPEG, and that will suffice as a quote as well. 2 points to mention in relation to the costs and the quotations. So shipping costs are ineligible. And also discounts from makers or dealers, they also need to be deducted from the total cost along with the shipping costs before you calculate what is 50% of the total cost. So just to be mindful of that when you're working out the financial details. And thirdly, they convert all amounts to euro. So that just refers to if you are purchasing from, for example, from a dealer or a website where the currency might be in dollars or something different to euro, just convert the amount to euro because otherwise you'll have confusion with different currencies in the financial information that you're submitting in the application form. The third essential support material is your audio and video recordings. And this is a chance to showcase what you do and showcase what you do in the best possible light. So you have the opportunity to submit up to 3 MP3 files. If you prefer not to upload files themselves, you can upload links to audio or video files. So it could be SoundCloud files or YouTube files or something like that. What you would do to share the links is that you would put the links into a Word document and share them in that way, and the panel can access those files online by clicking on those links. Just to say, do make sure that those links are accessible. Sometimes the link might be from a private account, and so the panel won't be able to access it. So if it is not a publicly available or accessible file, make sure to include the access information as well, so that the panel will be able to actually assess and listen to and view the files. And then the reference to recording information there is just to say that when you're uploading, whether it's the MP3 files or the links, be sure to include an accompanying Word document which details, the information regarding each recording. So, who is performing, what piece you're playing, when it was recorded. And also another really important thing is, if it's a long file, the panel won't have time to listen to a 3/4 of an hour long file, and you might be sharing a video of a concert performance. But if you feel what best reflects your playing maybe is a piece that starts 2/3 of the way through the concert, then put in your Word doc, please listen from 33 minutes and 20 seconds, and the panel will go straight to that point and listen to the piece that starts at that point. So you can be direct in relation to that, and direct the panel where you want them to start listening, just so you can showcase the best of what you do. So then moving on to the final point in relation to essential support materials, and this is why I was saying if it's applicable. So this is for those who participate in the PSED, which we spoke about earlier. And so if you participate in the PSED, what you need to do is just get a letter from maybe the director of the local education initiative outlining the arrangement, so that they would just state that you are donating 2 hours of your time to maybe deliver a workshop or deliver teaching in their education setting. And so it's just a confirmation of the arrangement for the donation time. And just to be clear that it's separate to paid teaching work, and just you would upload that letter then as an essential support material. At the bottom there, you'll see optional support materials, and you can share and upload up to 10 files of optional support materials. You don't have to, but it can be a really good way, I suppose, to demonstrate your track record further. If you had a good, favorable CD review or a concert review, for example, or an adjudication sheet where you got a glowing critique, that's all an endorsement of your work, and can be really useful to share I suppose, to inform the panel about, as I said, your track record. Now, the application process. So as I said, it's you can access the form through musicnetwork.ie. Once you've downloaded the Award 2 guidelines, you create an account on the application portal. From there, you fill in the application form in stages, upload the essential and optional support materials whenever you're ready to do so. And when you're 100% happy with your application, you're submitting your application before the deadline on Tuesday the 13th. Now, a really important thing is once you hit submit, or well, it's apply is actually the button, but once you apply and your application is submitted, you will receive an automated confirmation email. So if you don't see that in the inbox of your email account shortly after you submit your application, do check your spam folder or the junk folder to check in case it has accidentally been directed there. If it's not there either, do get in touch, contact us to let us know, because there may have been a glitch and your application may not have been submitted. So if you don't receive the confirmation email, do get in touch with us by email or by phone number. And finally, all results of the assessment process will be communicated by email with everyone in December. So do keep an eye out there for emails as well in December. So just to provide you with a quick overview in relation to the application form. So there are 6 sections to the form. The first of these, section 1, is just you're filling in your contact details and stating what instrument it is that you intend to purchase and that you're applying for support to purchase. Section 2 relates to your career. So in this section, you'll be uploading your CV, you'll be uploading the audio and video recordings. You'll also be asked about the instruments you own. And the reason for this is, you might be intending to upgrade your instrument. So maybe the instrument you currently own is, you've outgrown it, it's holding you back perhaps, and so you'd be just stating that, for example, you own a certain type of instrument, but now you're ready for a higher quality one. So that's just to explain the background behind that. You'll also be outlining and providing a breakdown of your career development to date and your expected career path as it goes forward. Of course, in the current climate, this may need to deviate a little bit. Everyone is aware of the current situation, and the panel will take that into account, but do outline, for example, concerts that you had due to happen and coming up that perhaps have been postponed. I would still recommend sharing that information as concerts that were intended to happen. But you can list all of that, and there's plenty opportunity to outline your plans and your goals in section 2 there. Section 3 relates to the proposed instrument for purchase. So you'll be asked, have you selected the instrument? And if not, how you plan to source it and how long you expect it to take to source the instrument. So you don't have to have identified the exact instrument, but you do need to outline, your plans for sourcing it. You'll be uploading your 2 quotations here. Again, I can't stress the importance that you have to upload 2 quotations. You'll be also asked how you fund the other 50% of the instrument cost. So you might be talking about whether it's a grant or you have savings, you might be considering a loan, you might be projecting that you will, from perhaps teaching income or other work, you will, provide the 50% from that, but you just need to outline your plan there. Then a key thing you're asked about is what difference will this instrument make to your career? And that's a really, really great opportunity to kind of make your case as to why, it is really important that you receive support through the scheme. Your current instrument may be holding you back. You may no longer have an instrument, you may have had to return it, and maybe it was given to you on a loan basis. So what difference would it make to your career? Will it enable you to continue in your career? Will it enable you to step up in your career, to develop as an artist? Maybe it's affecting your technique, the current quality of your instrument. So all of those things, they're really important to demonstrate the need for the instrument and the impact it would make should you receive the award to purchase the instrument. Section 4 relates to the public service and education dividend. So that would just be the opportunity there to upload the confirmation letter that you receive from the local education initiative, just outlining the arrangement you have with them to donate 2 hours of your time to, as I said, teach or deliver a workshop in that school. And section 5 is an opportunity to upload optional support materials, and there's also a checklist there just as a reminder that you have uploaded all 3, or if applicable, 4 essential support materials earlier in your application. And finally, section 6 is an opportunity just to share any thoughts or any feedback that you would like to share with us regarding the Music Capital Scheme, or perhaps regarding the application process or the application form. Anything really that you feel relevant to share with us, we'll be delighted to hear from you there, and your feedback is always very, very welcome. So this is just a brief example of the ways in which you'll be inputting information in the application form. So you can see the first 2 there, 1.4 and 1.5, they're just very straightforward, entering your email address, entering your contact number. On the right hand side there, the country of residency, that's a drop down menu, again, very simple entry method. 2.3 is a text box, which you'll see at the bottom there. It's kind of faint in the screen, but there's a word limit there. So there'll be various text boxes throughout the application, and just be mindful of the word limit, because you will need to go back and edit it if you're over the limit before you can actually submit your form. So just keep an eye on the word limits and make sure you stick within them when you're filling in the text boxes. And I just also wanted to show you an example of how you would upload support materials through the application form. So this is question 2.3. The essential support material that you would be uploading here is an audio and video recording. And you'll see underneath the question, or the heading there, acceptable file types. So this lets you know what type of file you can submit here. So you, in terms of audio recordings, what you can submit there is an MP3, so you can't submit a WAV file. But if you don't have MP3s, as I said, you can submit links to files online, whether they're in SoundCloud, Dropbox, a YouTube video. You know, you can submit a Word doc outlining those links, and again, just make sure the files are accessible, and also, you know, provide details of your recording there as a Word doc. You'll just see on the right hand side there's quite a bit of text there, and though on the right hand side of quite a few of the questions, there'll be various hints and tips and reminders, really, things to jog your memory as you're kind of completing that question. So they're really useful to just keep an eye on those tips and I suppose sharings really on the right hand side of the questions as you go through the form. So do keep an eye on them, do read those, as they can be very informative. And finally, when you get to this box at the bottom, you'll be very, very happy. You'll be able to scroll down at any stage and save your draft. But once you have your application form 100% complete and you've proofread it, you're really happy with it, you're ready to go, you can just agree to the terms and click apply. But just to note that once you click that apply button, your application form is submitted then, and you won't be able to edit it any further. So the assessment procedure. So moving on to the selection criteria. So these are really important because these are the criteria that the assessment panel will use to assess your application. So all of the applications will be assessed in this way. So you can see that there are 4 criteria there. So track record is 50%. So that's a really important one to take note of. And, you know, you can demonstrate your track record through your CV, through your audio and video files. There'll be, you know, lots of opportunities to talk about your track record in section 2 of the form. When I was mentioning, you'll be talking about your career. So really, you know, take care what shows you in the best light and what really demonstrates your track record and does you justice, you know, in terms of people assessing your application. The second selection criteria there is demonstrated need for the instrument. So we spoke about this earlier as well in the application form. So again, really important, an opportunity to make your case and to show the impact that this will have should you receive an award. The third item there, proposals for use of the instrument, including in the Republic of Ireland. So it's, you know, to I suppose, show how much performance work you'll be doing. It doesn't have to be exclusively in the Republic of Ireland, but also that you would demonstrate that there would be regular use in the Republic of Ireland. And finally, the final item on the list there, the PSED participation. As you can see, that's worth 5%. Now, it may not seem like a huge amount, and the reality of it is it can make all the difference in such a competitive process. You know, there's so many high quality applications received for this award too, that having that PSED participation and that additional 5%, it really can make all the difference at the end of the day. You know, as I said, it's such a competitive award, so I would really recommend that you consider participating in that PSED. Now, the conditions of the award. So before we go through those, just to say that all applicants, as I mentioned, whether you're successful or unsuccessful, will receive a notification in December. And if you're unsuccessful, you can apply for feedback for a period of up to 2 months after you receive a notification. So do keep that in mind, and you know, it can be really useful to hear the feedback of the panel, as you know, it can be informative if you're considering applying again in a subsequent year. And so for successful applicants, if you are successful, you're asked to write to Music Network within 2 weeks to arrange drawdown of the award, and you'll be providing your bank details, your PPS number, and your tax clearance if the award is over €10,000. Any proposed change to the instrument for purchase must be approved by Music Network. So what that essentially means, if, for example, supposing the dealer where you were proposing to order your instrument from, you know, maybe they went out of business or their waiting list turns out to be 5 years long or whatever reason, you know, do come and talk to us. You know, if there's a clear rationale to change the proposed instrument from purchase, we're very happy to talk to you about that. And so do come to us if, you know, if something like that happens. Receipts for the purchase of the instrument must be submitted to Music Network within 6 months of the award. You must also provide annual reports. So basically once a year for a period of 3 years, you're sent a straightforward template report, and you just, it's a way to, I suppose, see the impact, the positive impact that receiving the instrument has been having, and just a chance to share how you're getting on with us. Then the acknowledgement of the award. So all successful awardees are asked to acknowledge Music Network, the Arts Council, and the Department of Media, Tourism, Arts, Culture, Sport and the Gaeltacht in all biographical and promotional materials for a period of 3 years after you receive the award. And, you know, we'll send you the logos and the text for that when you draw down the award. And finally, just to say, if you're not in a position then to be compliant with the conditions of the award amount is refunded, and that is added to the award for the next round of the scheme, so that you know, another musician will be able to benefit from that award. Now, finally, tips for applicants. So it sounds like an obvious one. Read the Music Capital Scheme guidelines for your award. It's a bit like the advice for reading the exam paper. Do take time. It's worth investing in taking time at the beginning to read the guidelines, just to make sure you really understand it, and you can, you know, start preparing your application then. Do not assume assessors are familiar with your work. So, you know, you may be a very well-known artist, but the panel can only assess on the basis of the application. So assume that people do not know your work, and make sure you share everything that is relevant to share. Read the notes for each question on the application form. They are those notes I referred to on the right-hand side of many of the questions. As I said, they can be really helpful as a reminder and as a jogging your memory, you know, with relevant information as you're going through each question. Something to mention, the information should be clear, concise and relevant. Just, I suppose, you know, the panel have a limited amount of time, and so the more clear and concise and direct you can be, the better. Do submit again, as you'll be worn out from hearing me say this, but submit in advance of the deadline, Tuesday the 13th at 2 p.m. As I said, if you can put it in on the 12th, I'd really recommend that. And so apart from that, it's maybe time for some questions. I'm going to look at my other screen now in a minute. So there may be questions in the comment stream, which I look at, but also you can check out, there's some frequently asked questions in the guidelines, which would be useful to have a look at. And if you have questions after this session finishes, you can email us on capitalscheme@musicnetwork.ie or phone us on 0830-955-956, and we'd be very happy to answer any questions you have. So do feel free to get in touch with us, and we'll be, as I said, we'll be very happy to help. So that is the end of the session, but I am going to look at some questions now. So if you could just bear with me for a minute, I'm going to move over to this other screen and see if there are questions. Okay. So a question: can references be used for the optional support material? Absolutely, anything that is an endorsement of your work. As I said, whether it's a critique, an adjudication, absolutely a reference, or a, you know, I suppose a reference from whether it's a peer or someone who you know, is an expert in your field. Absolutely, that's a really beneficial thing to submit as an optional support material. So thanks for that question. So another question: is this award open to music students? Well, it's for professional performing musicians. So I suppose that would be something you'd have to look at yourself in terms of, you also have to be over 18. So there's a few criteria there that you'd have to take into account, but it is essentially for professional performing musicians. Now, you could be a professional performing musician and still, you know, be taking on some level of study. So it would depend if you would, I suppose, meet the conditions of the award in terms of being a professional performing musician. So I'm not sure if there are any other questions. I think that might be it. I'm just going to give it another second. But just to say again, do get in touch with us after this. You have the details, they're on the guidelines, you know, capital scheme at musicnetwork.ie. And as I said, that phone number there, 0830955956. We'll be very happy to hear from you. Yeah, I think that's it on the question front. So it's just left for me to say thanks very much for listening. I hope you feel ready to start preparing your application, and best of luck with your application.